Off top, turkey vultures defecate on their legs, not only to cool themselves off, but also disinfect it. Play the music.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
All right, so I'm wondering how you are going to somehow transition my great turkey vulture fact. Apparently the pH is, the acidity is so high that it protects them against infection and sterilizes their legs. I know what you're gonna do.
We are gonna talk about the Cardinals today. Another bird that is down their leg to clean themselves of their sins.
It's outstanding. I appreciate it. So like I was opposed to talking about this again because we've talked about tanking a lot. But that asshole Pablo has tricked my friends Mina and
enemy of the show, Pablo Torre.
Yes. Yeah, his new show, we'll listen to it or watch it or something when it comes out at some point, and we will definitely say that it sucks, whether it's good or not. But anyway, the point, I normally don't get upset, but they upset me a little bit because they called me out personally.
Played the audio.
Yeah, played the audio, and I don't love that particular take because it got legs and wasn't as well delivered as I like. But anyway.
The take being that the Dolphins tanking was morally reprehensible because it was not fair to the players.
Yes. And I made the mistake of leading with like, yeah, okay, injuries are one thing, but then I got to my actual issue, but no one stuck around for that. I really believe the Dolphins like clipped that portion of it and played it for their team for motivation because it is an insulting thing to say is that these players are so bad that they're gonna hurt themselves or something, which was not the point I was trying to make. The point I was making was that what the Dolphins were doing was unfair to their players. And I still stand by the fact, no matter what, even though I love and respect Mina, she tried to say it wasn't unethical. It is unethical, not only against the players, but against the other franchises that you are in a league with. It is unethical to completely tank. And I still feel that way. Like there are certain things in Pablo's defense and a lot of other people's defense of tanking is it's in the rule. It's not against the rules. And it is a way to optimize. Yeah. There are lots of things that are not against the rules. And decent people understand that you don't break, like coming off that Bishop Sycamore documentary.
Noted decent people in the NFL.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not even about being decent to everyone else in the world. It's about being decent to each other.
Oh, sir, I'm so happy I'm decent at 4-13.
It's not about being decent at 4-13. It's if you, a thing like that, the reason why unwritten rules exist is because they keep. Why are you laughing?
Because if I were to tell you a defender of the unwritten rules in baseball, you would.
No, I don't. So I laugh at the unwritten rules because I'm not. It's not something that I grew up with. But I understand that the reason why unwritten rules are developed is because they're needed. Like that's the whole thing. That's how societies work. The rules develop because they are needed in many cases. But anyway, let me make my point. You cut me off before I get to my point. You acting like you're on Undisputed because that's the way that they do things over there. Not how we do it.
I'm not like Keyshawn.
Well, Keyshawn was like measured. Anyway. The point that I'm making is when people do things like that, it is based on the idea that not everyone else will do it. And so you're trying to get an unfair advantage. So like when there are rules and ideas, unwritten rules like that, like, yeah, we're not going to completely tank to get an advantage. It's because you're taking advantage of everyone else. And one, they're going to make billions of dollars because they're protected by everyone else. The closed ecosystem point that I like to make always, and that's unfair to the rest of the teams who are actually putting good product out there because at the end of the day, the NFL makes money because it's entertainment. If you are not interested in putting on a good game, you're hurting everybody and you're taking advantage of them because you're going to make money anyway. And the unwritten rule part of it is if everyone does it, then we have a trash league. So you're taking advantage of people there. So that aside, I certainly don't ever need to like cape for the other NFL owners or teams, but I would be pissed if I was one of them and I looked over and was like, you guys are trying to cheat your way to the bottom and still making money. But that aside, my criticism of why I believe it's unethical for the players is because I've made the point 100 times. These players have sacrificed a lot, and football is different than other sports. But it doesn't matter. The point is, I don't even have to get on the high horse about how risky football is and how dangerous it is. I read the New York Times article about Michael Locksley. He's Maryland's head football coach. He lost his son, and it's a lot about CTE and that sort of stuff. So, like, I'm a bit emotional on the heels of that also. But we can put all that aside and just talk about the idea of you signing a contract, which implied in it does not say in the contract, you will play as hard as you can. But it is, again, an unwritten, implied rule when you sign a contract to play for a football team that you will do the best that you can. And if you don't, people get upset. See Kyler Murray. Even the team gets upset. And so when they hand you that contract.
For the record, that's a $240 million contract. It's not an NFL minimum.
Okay, whatever. Put
you
it
better
aside.
try.
Whatever. I'm just making the point that they got upset at him because they were suggesting that he was not putting forth as much effort in preparation as they would have wanted. And so it is understood that and then they try to put a clause in the contract. That type of stuff, to me, if you have to like put a clause in the contract every time somebody breaks a rule, you are going to like just be running in circles, and it's not the point. Like, you have to understand that people are decent and normal. But anyway, implied in that contract is I'm going to do the best that I can to succeed. And I believe that it should be implied on the other side that the team will do the best that they can for you to succeed. And in football is a very interdependent game. You cannot have success without players around you also being good and competent and responsible. So if you are creating an organization or a team, you look like you have something to say. Please go.
No, finish your point. Now, my Matumbo finger will wait. My tiny Matumbo finger.
I just it feels like if the people at the top of the organization are actively trying to suck, to me, that feels like it's unfair. If anyone were to show up to their job and you are presumably care about your work and doing the best that you can, and for some reason your boss is sabotaging you, you get angry. I'm sure everyone's experienced that. And that to me feels completely unfair to players who have one shot and they're having that shot compromised by these people. And then the last point, I'll let you respond to that, but also it doesn't work. But all right.
First of all, what you are saying, the point that you are making that it is unfair for the players, particularly players on the fringes who might not have a chance at a second contract unless they succeed on their first contract because they aren't first-round picks, second-round picks, et cetera, et cetera. You are completely right. My counterpoint to that, off the jump, is what is the job of the general manager in the larger organization? Is to manage the organization to try to win a Super Bowl. The reason there isn't as much tanking in the NFL, there is not nearly as strong as of a correlation as there is between the NFL and the NBA, that if you get a first overall pick who's an all-NBA player, your team is going to be good for close to a decade.
Right.
When there's Caleb Williams, when there is the next best Patrick Mahomes, someone who Dan Orlovsky compared to Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson. And I'm tough with expectations. We'll get into that in a later podcast of why maybe we shouldn't put that much on him.
Yeah.
The calculus changes because your best chance, as we have seen over the last 20 years of Super Bowl winners, yes, there have been some bad quarterbacks that have won, but when you have Tom Brady, when you have Peyton Manning, when you have Drew Brees, when you have Patrick Mahomes, you have a much better chance of being in the Final Four and winning a Super Bowl. If you can get one of those guys, the idea of throwing away a season makes a lot more sense because that's the responsibility of the people.
Okay, so to be clear, I think I was a little messy and emotional early in my argument, so I wasn't clear. So let's be clear. There's two conversations happening. You're arguing, like, is it worth doing because it may work? But it doesn't seem like you're arguing against the crux of my argument is that it's unethical and wrong.
No.
Like you said, I'll accept that what they are doing to the players is unfair. You said you are right. So we can put that aside.
Definitely.
Okay.
I'm not saying that it's good for the players on the team.
Yeah. Well, then, okay. So right now you're arguing that it's a smart thing to do for them, for the business. And you accept that
larger organization.
Okay.
Yes.
I would argue against that also.
Yeah.
But the players, you named three quarterbacks that you're fighting to get. Only one of them was a number one overall pick.
Peyton?
Yeah, Peyton was the only one who's the number one overall pick. It's so unlikely. Like, I went through the recent drafts and looked at it. And you can look, and another point that I make a lot is the best quarterbacks in football are quarterbacks that came into good situations because it gives them time to develop. I think you are much better off, and they're so rare.
Two of the best three quarterbacks in the NFL came into bad situations, and Josh Allen and Joe Burrow.
Okay, I mean, yeah, it's fine. I don't know that I would accept that. Joe Burrow came in. They had Tyler Boyd. They had T. Higgins. But okay, I'll grant you that. I don't know that I would accept the Josh Allen situation. But okay, I'll grant you the Josh Allen situation too. That's two. Everybody else, like the runner-up to MVP last year, Jalen Hurts, great situation, second round pick. Lamar Jackson, MVP, damn near second round pick. Like Patrick Mahomes, number 10 overall. So like you want to take those two and pretend like that like is evidence that you can turn your team around with one player. I don't think that you can.
For the record, though, this is not just turning around the Cardinals with one player. They have the Texans pick, and they don't need the Texans to tank for them. They're going to tank for themselves. And they have Kyler Murray. And the reason this is significant, Kyler Murray tore his ACL in week 14, and I know he wants to play as soon as possible. He's put on the PUP list. He's going to miss at least the first 4 games of the season. They have an interesting calculus with Kyler. They're going to probably have to play him at some point. He's going to want to play. He's going to want to resuscitate his value. It is probably in his best interest to not want to be a Cardinal long-term, to play a little bit. You might win more games with Kyler Murray, no matter how bad your team is, because he is most likely better than Clayton Tune or I can't remember the guy's Josh. I was about to call him Josh Dobbs.
Yeah,
it's Josh Dobbs. Okay, great. Yeah. And you don't want to rush him back, but you want to maximize the value for this. I want to go through some of the recent quarterback trades and stuff because Trey Lance was worth 3 first-round picks, the opportunity to draft him, right?
Yep.
Matthew Stafford was traded for 2 first-round picks. Russell Wilson was traded for 2 first-round picks. Let's just tease it out and say it goes as well as possible. They have the first pick in the draft, the chance to draft Caleb Williams, the second pick in the draft, the chance to draft Drake May, who by all accounts would have been the first overall pick in this draft, is a slam dunk, even though this is a draft that someone traded up for Bryce Young, and you'd have Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, at this stage of his career, with his contract locked in, which will become more and more affordable as the CBA and the salary cap continues to grow, is going to be worth a trade roughly as much as Matthew Stafford or Russell Wilson, would be my guess. You then have an option for someone who's likely worth more than the Trey Lance trade, and you'd have Caleb Williams.
So I think that they've already undercut his trade value by telegraphing that they're giving up on the season.
But there are only 8 good quarterbacks. Someone there still has to be a bidding war for him.
Okay, fine. To me, that's not all that interesting because the Cardinals will mess it up anyway. Because I
had to follow up on this.
They have had they've been around since the NFL, since like before the merger. Yep. I think like they were in Chicago, they were in St. Louis, like they were starting in like the 20s.
Yeah.
And in all that time, they had 2 championships, both pre-Super Bowl. And the entire time that they've been like post-merger Super Bowl, was that in 63, 64?
Between 63 and 65.
Yeah, somewhere around there, they merged. They have never won a Super Bowl. They've been once. So like this organization will find a way to mess it up. In recent history, we can go through the things that they've done that were incredibly stupid.
Yeah.
Or failures, not even stupid, but failures in ruining quarterbacks and going to get another quarterback that you then don't like and extending coaches who you are immediately going to fire and keeping around general managers who are not very good at their job. All that stuff is bad. So like this, you know what I really want to make my quest for this year? This is what I should do. We can clip this. This will be good social stuff.
Clip it.
I would like to prime the entire sports industry for Caleb Williams refusing to go to the Cardinals. Like, I think that there are lots of people who would be opposed to that, but the more we talk about it, the more we normalize it, the safer it will be for him to come out and do it, because he doesn't deserve that. And none of us deserve it. Frankly, if he's as talented as we believe he is, we don't deserve to have that taken from us by an organization that has not proven that they can do anything consistently well.
Unless everything goes to plan and they have Marvin Harrison Jr. and like 7 first-round picks.
They'll ruin it. They'll
I
find
do
a
too.
way to ruin
I
it.
actually was going to. So there have been the notable teams that have been trying to, the Jets messed up tanking for Trevor Lawrence, winning at the end. The Texans even messed up tanking last year because, Lovie Smith was like, after this, I want to win. We had the Dolphins, who you insulted to the point that they won games and got stuck with Tua instead of Joe Burrow. Washington, in that same Joe Burrow draft, won a game late in the season and then got bumped down to number 2. Is the biggest problem that these organizations that are incompetent, that they're too incompetent to tank properly?
No, it's not the biggest problem. I think so. Football is so much more complicated than other sports, and the organization matters so much more. And I think that sometimes the organization's culture is something that you cannot change, and you destroy it even more by tanking. You can't change overnight, and that's what it feels like tanking is to me. And that's why it also bothers me, because it feels like it's an attempt at a quick fix. It's like, you know what?
But it can
Our
be
organizational culture is so terrible that you know who's going to fix it? This 20-year-old. Let's throw it all away because this 20-year-old is going to fix it.
Well, there's two parts of that, though, because you've talked about like the organization's culture. Like Tom Brady was a culture. Of course, he's the best quarterback of all time. He's a culture, but like you played with people, whether it was like Ray Lewis or those guys were the culture. Yeah. So if you can get your hands on a precious asset, not to commodify these human beings like Caleb Williams, but he is so special, he could be so good so quickly that can reset a culture incredibly fast.
Well, nobody is a culture immediately. I think these guys grow into it, like Tom Brady and any of these. Like, you have to have the success to do that, and Tom Brady can bring his whatever down to whatever team he goes to, and it works out. But I guess the thing that pisses me off the most about all of this is I don't even like having this conversation about whether it works or not, because I think it's been proven quite clearly that it does not work, in football at least.
How's it been proven?
I mean, show me the example of the number one, of someone just being completely awful, tanking and getting a number 1 overall pick that changes the organization.
Well, the problem is they haven't tanked effectively, but the question is drafting generational quarterback who we think is going to be very good.
Right.
Does that change the organization?
So I think that, of course, that changes the organization, but I think you limit the ability to have this generational quarterback if you bring them into an awful situation. So we look back at the Joe Burrow situation and say, yes, Joe Burrow is the picture of the culture change there. Mm-hmm. They also tried to kill him. Like the Washington cut him in half.
Yeah.
And he was the most sacked quarterback like ever in history because they threw him in a trash organization. So I think that's what worries me about this. That's what upsets me about all this, is that as much as I accept that we commodify these guys to some degree, and I accept that we probably are not as serious about these people's careers as we should be all the time. Like, it's something that happens in sports,
and that's because we've talked. This is almost maybe a maxim for our board, which is going to go from imaginary to real soon.
I need that board.
Is that what's best for the player is not always best for the team, and that's a constant conflict in team building and organizational stuff. And you have been through that where most people have not. And right. Fans and teams are selfish. Yeah. They want what's best for the long term of the team.
Yeah, I get it. So, like, I get if you're a fan, I get the idea of getting behind this and getting excited about it and hoping that Caleb Williams can change the organization. That doesn't mean I have to respect it. That doesn't mean I have to champion it. That doesn't mean I have to accept it. That doesn't mean I have to be quiet about it when people are doing it and pretending like it's something that's okay and is a reasonable way to build a roster. And so, like, I understand the idea of not like going all in and building towards something. I'm fine with that. Like, I get that you can't win the Super Bowl every year. And I get that at the end of your run, when all your contracts are coming up and you can't extend everybody. Yeah, I get that you're going to have to let some people go and you're going to be bad. But it is still your responsibility to be as good as you possibly can. It's your responsibility to the players, responsibility to the other teams. And trading away the only quarterback that you have on your roster with any experience, or not trading away, releasing the only quarterback.
It's Cole McCoy. Come on.
But okay, so I'm with you. Colt McCoy's not great, but that was it.
Are we sure he's better than Clayton Tune?
We're not. But I'm sure that
Do you
they
ever
were
want to
better.
call him Clay Tune?
See, I'm not here for your jokes.
I inherently say Clay Tune all the time. Anyway, go ahead.
No, it bothers me and annoys me, and it's unfair. And if I'm going to be the only one in sports media who points out how it's a thing to do to players and it's a thing to do to the other teams, and it's cheating and gaming the system. I don't know. I'm fine with doing that. It's just gross.
I grew up in Washington D.C.
Yeah.
My earliest memories are drafting Heath Schuler 3rd overall and him being a better high jumper than the quarterback. And then they put in Gus Frerotte, who headbutted a wall.
Yeah.
Then we had a glorious era of Brad Johnson, who they called Brad Bengay Johnson because he was always so banged up. And then, we hopped through quarterback, and we were an incompetent institution. I shouldn't say we. The Washington football team, Commanders, whatever they're going to be called in the future, we're an incompetent organization that just descended and descended and descended. But I want to tell you about 6 months. And those 6 months, it wasn't even 6 months. It was 5 months from August through January in 2012, when this team, which was a garbage run organization, garbage owner, garbage president, Bruce Allen, had a guy named Robert Griffin. And those 6 months or 5 months are the happiest I've ever been as a football fan. I was like, we're winning Super Bowls with this guy. There's hope. There's joy. And that comes because when you have someone playing the quarterback position who's like exciting, it changes everything. And that's like when I'm viewing this through that prism. You're viewing it through the prism of how would you have felt in that organization. I know how I would feel rooting for the Cardinals. I'd be like, bring Caleb Williams in. I want to be happy.
Yeah, I get that. But I guess the point that there's a disconnect is you are like making an argument, or you're fighting against an argument that I'm not making. I'm not arguing that you should not want a franchise quarterback. I'm not arguing against that at all. I mean, RG3 wasn't a number 1 overall pick. I'm not arguing that you shouldn't want a franchise quarterback. Like, I get that. I'm just arguing that this is unethical and despicable way to go about it, and someone needs to say it. That's all.
Yeah, I think I'm arguing the ends would justify the means here, and you're saying that they would not.
They don't, because I got integrity, and I would like to keep whatever shred of integrity I have left. I think that they should try to do the same thing, and no one should be proud of this. No one should be celebrating it, and I feel like I'm a broken record now.
No.
And it does not work, and it's bad. Like, okay, RG3, what happened to him?
He was broken.
Yeah. So, like,
you retired the year before. You would have been on the field when he was broken with Haloti Ngata running into his knee.
Yeah. So I would, and
it's a
I don't know.
Refrigerator moving very fast.
And we look at like, and I guess this is my point. What you want is some joy and happiness from your team.
To have a chance to win the Super Bowl.
Okay. That's what you want from your team. Mm-hmm. You would love to have the best chance to win for your team.
And organizational direction.
Right. Which is fine. I think that these people who may be in favor of this, what they should want is someone else to own the team, or someone else to be their general manager. That was what we wanted for a long time. I get that. Yeah. That seems like a more honest path to buildings, because again, who's the best quarterback in football? Patrick Mahomes. Mm-hmm. He went into a ready-built system that had a number 1 overall pick playing quarterback, and they were good. And he came in there, and then he became great. That matters. Same with all the rest of the quarterbacks that are in football. And so that's my point. It's like, this is never going to work. It's not. You're not going to bring in a quarterback and then solve all the problems. There are too many like moving parts in football for it to work. It's not basketball.
It kind of does work.
It does
when
not.
You find the quarterback.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess.
Look at the favorites in the league this year.
They're teams with good quarterbacks.
Yes.
Right. And I guess this is where we disagree, is that I think that these quarterbacks are talented. But I mean, the reason why the quarterbacks have become great is because they are in good situations. They came into good situations.
Definitely. But the talent and giving you the best chance to have a good quarterback is to find the talented quarterback. And the best chance to find the talented quarterback is to find them at the top of the draft.
You use Josh Allen as an example. Mm-hmm. That's a perfect example. They fixed the situation around him. Now all of a sudden he's great. Had they not fixed the situation, we would never know that Josh Allen was this good. Josh Allen would be bouncing around teams who are not fully committed to leaning in on the Josh Allen experience. That is the thing that you need to fix. Bringing a great quarterback into a organization is going to give you a quarterback.
Maybe.
No, not maybe. That's what happens.
Peyton Manning was the first overall pick, went 3-13 as a rookie, then he was 13-3 in his second year.
I haven't done the research on that team, but I imagine the roster was good, and maybe it's happened once or twice. I'll give you that. It's not a reasonable way to go about doing things.
We're not going to hit 100% on who's good and who's bad, but it's also like the Josh Allen thing's not just the organization. It's not just bringing in Steph Diggs. We've talked they've talked specifically about how he fixed his throwing mechanics, and it was a lot to do with like his golf swing, how he's overswing. Like it's not just organization.
That is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Why can't?
So no one else tries to fix their mechanics. Like
he was at Wyoming. He went to the NFL.
I don't think the result. There are lots of. Trey Lance.
My God, he had better coaching in the NFL than he did at Wyoming.
That's absurd. You're absurd. Of course he had better coaching in NFL, but the idea that
top 10 overall pick improves. My God.
How many times do we have someone who says, I'm in the best shape of my life. I went and worked on my mechanics. I fixed everything, and then it doesn't work.
That usually just means they took HGH.
Either way, it never works. That's not the solution.
It's worked twice now, though. Like Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen. I know they're great.
It's about development. Yeah. It's about development, and it's about what they surrounded them with.
But it's not talking just about the organization. It's the player, too. Players are responsible for their own development.
I agree. But you cannot develop if you are in the doldrums of the NFL, surrounded by people who can't catch or protect you. That's my only point, is that if you believe that the panacea is a great quarterback, you don't understand football. Like it's plain and simple. You never put your hand in the dirt. I mean, anybody who believes that you can drop a single player into a situation,
I don't.
Right? So either way, you're going to have to improve your organization.
Yes,
which is not just the players on the field. It's the way that you run your team. Once you do that, you're more likely to find a quarterback, because it is my belief that every quarterback that's drafted in the first round has the potential to be a franchise quarterback, or he wouldn't be drafted in the first round. The reason that he does not become a franchise quarterback is not 100% based on the organization, but I think it's more on the organization than it is on the player.
I promise you that other quarterbacks drafted to the Chiefs would not be Patrick Mahomes.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that at all.
But it's just like a lot of it's the player.
But I promise you, Patrick Mahomes wouldn't be Patrick Mahomes that we're talking about today if he got drafted by the Cardinals.
Patrick Mahomes, fascinating case, by the way. If we had known that he raised the risk profile and how he played in college because he knew he had to score so many points with their defense, I feel like he would have been the first pick in that draft, for the record. I feel like all of the risky play and stuff having that explanation, very different. I mean, or at least picked over Mitch Trubisky. Myles Garrett was a beast.
I beat this horse pretty bad.
I don't know if you did, because I still don't totally agree.
Well, beating the dead horse is about the topic being beaten, not me beating you.
I thought I was the dead horse.
You're not the dead horse. I mean, you gave up on the debate at the beginning. We started having a different debate.
No,
the original point
you said you wanted to argue about tanking. I never was supporting that it was good for the players on the tanking team.
No, you were arguing that it wasn't unethical. You made the point that it is unethical not to tank, is what you said. Maybe that's just doing a bit.
No. I do not think it is good for the players. I think it is the ethical responsibility of the general manager and like the roster builder to give them the best chance to win a Super Bowl.
Within reason.
I never said within reason.
Okay, and see, that's where you and I disagree. And I don't know if I want to live in a world.
Isn't there more roster turnover and there's more parity, teams can get better in the NFL than any other league?
Yeah.
And so the one, like the totem, the stabilizer that you need is a quarterback, and the rest of it can be built around him.
We look at the most stable organizations. Mm-hmm. They are not organizations that necessarily have always had a great quarterback. I think that is what stability is to be able to transition, to be able to be good when you don't have a great quarterback. That is stability.
Yeah.
I don't believe that you can have this one quarterback come in and be the solution. But if you believe that, then we can't come to, then I guess it makes sense. But this still comes what I refuse to accept from you, that I'm going to need you before we leave here. We're going to be here all night. And if you will not accept that there are certain unwritten rules that people and companies should follow.
Yep.
You accept it.
Yeah, there should be no bat flips.
I don't care about bat flips.
I'm just kidding.
But the point remains that if I need to write a rule for every little way that you can cut corners, I don't know how to get you to accept something that's so obvious and see, like, if it's not against the law if you go to a bar and there's peanuts there. It's not against the law to take all the peanuts. But it's kind of an asshole thing to do. Yeah, it's like they don't have to put up a sign that says, you know what? All these free peanuts, you can't take them all. And somehow you and people like you believe it's okay to take all the peanuts and leave none for no one else. Just because, hey, they didn't make a rule against it. I hate people like that. You got to make a rule for everything to do. Everything that is unethical, we got to make a rule or a law, or else it's okay. Free game.
I mean, I don't think that analogy completely works.
Okay.
But to your larger point, I am not saying it is good for the players. I am not saying it is good for the league. I am saying that as it is currently constructed, it is the responsibility of bad teams to try to get Caleb Williams.
How did we turn into First Take? I don't know how we did it. You did it. You pissed me off because this is trash. It's not the responsibility of the team to try to get Caleb Williams. The responsibility of the team to put the best product out there that they can.
It's the responsibility of the teams to give them the best shot at winning a Super Bowl.
Okay, and this is where our argument breaks, or this is where our conversation breaks down. It's like
same number of Super Bowls on this set.
I'll never. That's your first good joke of the show. That's a good one. Yeah, I will never accept the idea that I could maybe get on board with this if we were talking basketball. Because I do think that, yeah, you got a franchise player, you're in contention for the duration of the time you have them. You don't have them, you have no shot. There are other ways to go about it. I still would not argue that it's a good thing to do, but it makes more sense. And now they got the lottery properly weighted or whatever, so it's less likely to happen. But I can't accept it in football, and we'll never come to agreement if you believe that there's one player that can save your team.
I don't believe that.
You do.
I don't.
You do.
I don't.
You do.
I just don't want to be on the treadmill of mediocrity.
So then be good at managing your roster.
Yes.
Be good at managing your team.
That is the best way to get there.
Don't suck.
I agree.
Like that
be good.
That won't get you off the treadmill.
I am
of
not
mediocrity.
saying a good team should tank for Caleb Williams.
You're saying anybody should tank for Caleb
No.
Williams. You are.
Particularly the Cardinals.
I don't know. This is weird. I hate it.
This
I'm
is
angry.
a team.
Genuine anger.
Well,
genuine.
Do you think the Dolphins, their tearing down job, even though they didn't get Joe Burrow, do you not think that their asset allocation, the way they were to manufacture trades, that's not responsible for the fact that they were able to build this dominant roster?
Maybe. That's the point. I mean, it doesn't.
So it does work.
No, it doesn't.
It can work.
Okay, this is a different conversation. Tanking for one player, and like the Dolphins, they did well that season. Like they did better than anybody expected. Mm-hmm. They did not trade away their best quarterback. Like there's a different level of it. I'm not sure that I would even argue that the Dolphins did tank that year. They did go and get a black coach, which is normally a sign that you're trying to tank, because that's normally, I think, what's it called? The tank commander is what they call it, where you bring somebody out whose job it is, or who you don't expect to succeed. Like this is the coach before the coach.
Brett Brown.
Yeah. And so they hired Flores, and Flores overachieved.
Yes.
And I think all of that to me is gross.
We're at this is the larger crossroads of what I mean by tanking. Tanking's not just like intentionally losing. It's allocating your resources in a way that gives you the best chance of having the most bites at the apple to rebuild your roster.
I mean, I think the Herschel Walker trade is like the big example of like the Cowboys traded away Herschel Walker. And so like and that's what they built their team on, their dynasty on.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with roster management. I have a problem when it is gross. And I don't have a problem with understanding that, hey, we might have a down year or two like that. I think that's what the Chiefs did, but they messed around and won the Super Bowl anyway. Like when they got rid of Tyreek Hill, it was like, oh, it's clear that they're willing to take a step back. They let Orlando Brown leave this last year. It's like, all right, we're going to take some steps back in order to take a big step forward. Like I understand that. That's reasonable. Just completely gutting your franchise to me feels unfair and ugly, especially when you are a team like the Cardinals who have ruined their fair amount of quarterbacks.
Glad they're to blame for Josh Rosen and Kyler Murray maybe playing so much Call of Duty.
Maybe. I understand the culture of an organization impacts the way that the players prepare and the way that the players perform and the way that the players around you prepare and perform. And if we're willing to accept that David Carr's career was ruined because he got sacked too much as a rookie and became kind of skittish, I'd be willing to accept that Josh Rosen would have had a different career somewhere else. That's all.
Yeah.
All right. I'm right. I win, or else we'll stay here all night.
You win.
Thank you. Bye.
I tanked, and I have the best shot at Caleb.
Thanks, Christina Buswell, Adi Khan, Sarah Abbott, especially Christina and Sarah. We will miss you. And Podville, no thanks to Charlie. We'll not miss you.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.